Hi, this video marks the beginning of a new series, as well as a new group of videos, as well as another playlist of mine. Now, this playlist is called Applied Ethics. Now, because I have another playlist. It's called Ethics, and that's normative ethics and meta ethics, which is actually a discussion about morality and the different moral theories. But then there's this other group of ethics, which is called applied ethics. Now, this is ethics being applied to certain issues, like how we should treat animals, euthanasia, abortion, many different things. Now this little group of videos that I'm doing is going to be starting in environmental ethics. Now I'm doing this with 3 books. I'm gonna do 3 books in this whole thing. One of them is going to be this one, Peter Singer's Animal Liberation, as well as Wes Jackson's Becoming Native to This Place, and a book by Dale Jameson, which is a bunch of his writings in one book. It's called Morality's Progress. But basically, I'm going to start this whole playlist with the first book that I read on the subject of environmental ethics, which is this one, Peter Singer's Animal Liberation. Environmental ethics is applied ethics in that we're talking about something called the dominant worldview. We're talking about speciesism, and we're talking about stuff like that. Now, in this video, I'm going to discuss the first chapter of Peter Singer's Animal Liberation. The first chapter is called "All Animals Are Equal," or why ethical people on which human equality rests requires us to extend equal consideration to animals too. At the beginning of this chapter, he's discussing the concept of equality, the principle of equality. Now, basically, what we're talking about here is we're talking about what Thomas Jefferson put in the Declaration of Independence when he wrote it, and then the country was about to be made. This is the whole thing that we're talking about now. Equality, when people use the word equality and think about equality to bring it about lots of different groups, we're talking about, people think that we're talking about asserting a fact that all of these people are equal, the same, and that we should treat them the same because of that. But that's not really what we're talking about here. Singer, in the beginning of his first chapter, he talks about something that was published by Mary Wollstonecraft. She's a feminist, which people revere today and talk about today. Her book was called, her publication was called "Vindication of the Rights of Woman," and basically what she was talking about and saying that women should have equal rights, and that's basically what she was discussing. And then we had this anonymous writer, i.e. Thomas Taylor, which was parodying Wollstonecraft's Vindication of the Rights of Woman, and it was called Vindication of the Rights of Brutes, or animals. So basically what we're talking about here is Wollstonecraft, what she was doing is that she was arguing that women should have rights, not that everybody is all the same, but just that women should have the same rights because they have the same capabilities and the same sentience and all that stuff, because and they all work hard, and they have the ability to work hard just like men do, and that women should have equal rights too. And then Thomas Taylor the anonymous writer, wrote this parody, Vindication of the Rights of Brutes, he was saying that because Wollstonecraft thinks that, well, he was saying that, well, since we're thinking about moving equal rights to women, then we could, logically infer that we can move the same kind of thing to animals. So that's basically what he was going on about. Singer goes through a lot of different things, and he talks about lots of different things. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but I want to get down to the very point that he has here. This is a little. The principle of equality of human beings is not a description of an alleged actual equality among humans. It is a prescription of how we should treat human beings. That is the actual principle of equality. That is really what the principle is. We're not talking about that there is actual equality, but it's saying that there are tons of different kinds of people. There's tons of people in different shapes and sizes and different intellects and all these things, but they all are equal in the fact that they are capable of working hard for themselves, and they're all capable of suffering. They're all capable of having bad times. And then after this little thing he says about human beings, Singer is a very utilitarian ethicist, so he talks about Jeremy Bentham, and he also talks about Henry Sidgwick. Jeremy Bentham, the founder of reforming utilitarian school of moral philosophy, incorporated the essential basis of moral equality into a system of ethics by means of his formula. Each to account for one and none for more than one. In other words, the interests of every being affected by an action are to be taken into account and given the same weight as the like interests of any other being. So yeah, and then the other utilitarian, Henry Sidgwick, he said it differently. The good of any one individual is of no more importance from the point of view, if I might say so, of the universe than the good of any other. So we're talking about equality there. But basically what, I'm going to read a couple more. Be assured that no person living wishes more sincerely than I do to see a complete refutation of the doubts that I myself have entertained and expressed on the grade of understanding allotted to them by nature, and to find that they are on par with ourselves. But whatever by the degree of talent, it is no measure of their rights. Because Sir Isaac Newton was superior to the others in understanding, he was not therefore lord of their property of the persons of others. That was an excerpt by Thomas Jefferson. That's another statement of equality. And then Sojourner Truth, which is another she was a black feminist, made the same point. They talk about this thing in the head. What do they call it? Intellect whispered by someone nearby. That's it. What's that got to do with women's rights or Negroes' rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint and yours a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? And now those are different cases on racism. And here's another one by Bentham. Now all of these that I'm reading here are discussions. They're quotes from writers that Singer is presenting that talk about human rights. But then Singer is going to make the point soon that animals have the same kind of thing that these people are talking about in all humans. When we're talking about the blacks and the women. The The day may come when the rest of the animal creation may acquire those rights which never could have been withholden from them, but by the hand of tyranny. The French have already discovered that the blackness of the skin is no reason why a human being should be abandoned without redress to the caprice of the tormentor. It may one day come to be recognized that the number of legs, the velocity of the skin, or the termination of the os sacrum are reasons equally insufficient for abandoning a sensitive being to the same fate. What else is it that should trace the insuperable line? Is it the faculty of reason, or perhaps the faculty of discourse? But a full-grown horse or dog is beyond comparison a more rational as well as a more conversable animal than an infant of a day or a week or even a month old. But suppose they were otherwise. What would it avail? The question is not can they reason nor can they talk, but can they suffer? Now this is where Singer begins to make his point. Now the basic point throughout this, I'm gonna read one more thing here. Racists violate the principle of equality by giving greater weight to the interests of members of their own race when there's a clash between their interests and the interests of those of another race. Sexists violate the principle of equality by favoring the interests of their own sex. Similarly, speciesists allow the interests of their own species to override the greater interests of members of their own species. The pattern is identical in each case. So we have the idea that's being put forth here is that racism and sexism, racism for one thing is belief that the interest of your race is and that your race itself is superior to the needs and the entity and the identity of other races. The same concept goes with sexism. For years, men have viewed women as less capable and view them as less intelligent, thus giving them less pay and sometimes and often harder work. So those are the same concepts in racism and sexism. Those are the same concept, just with different interests. We're just talking about racism. We're talking about sex. That's what the whole thing is. But then Singer moves to create a new category for discrimination in speciesism. That's just talking. This is where I've read this term in many other articles in environmental ethicists, who call themselves deep ecologists. That is my preferred. If you know anything about that is my preferred. It's my preferred theory of environmental ethics, and that's my preferred way of changing things. Now, they use the term dominant worldview as speciesism. The dominant worldview views humans, and they look at the needs and the wants of humans and just take and take and take, which leaves other species in disrepair and harm. And he discusses that most human beings are speciesists, and then also he discusses here that animals may not have the intellect that we have, and he talks about how dogs don't have the capacity or the intellect to vote, just like humans do. But dogs and cats and horses and snakes and all those things, they have the same thing that we have, in that they have sentience and they have the capacity to suffer. They have, if we, he uses analogies like slapping a horse and slapping a baby to show things like this. He makes lots of different points in this one chapter, which I could, if I went and described every argument, I'd be here for a while. But the main point of this thing is that speciesism is very real, and that there are tons of humans that are speciesists, and that there is no reason to believe that animals don't have the same sentience and capacity to suffer as we do. And in the next two chapters beyond this first chapter, he talks about speciesism, and he talks about all the he talks about stuff like that, and he talks about many things, and he even goes on in this book to talk about being a vegetarian, because because of the capacity to suffer, and the sentience that animals do have. And also in this chapter, he refutes the idea that animals don't have the capacity to suffer. He basically argues against people who think that animals don't have the capacity to suffer and the sentience to understand what's going on. At least a little bit, to understand that they're suffering or their happiness. So, and I'm going to read another one. Now this is a quote by Lord Brain. This is this is a neurologist that I've met. I might have talked about a little bit. I personally can see no reason for conceding mind to my fellow men and denying it to animals. I at least cannot doubt that the interests and activities of animals are correlated with the awareness and feeling in the same way as my own, and which may be, for aught I know, just as vivid. And he also writes, every particle of factual evidence supports the contention that the higher mammalian vertebrates experience pain sensations at least as acute as our own. To say that they feel less because they are lower animals is an absurdity. It can easily be shown that many of their senses are far more acute than ours. Visual acuity in certain birds, hearing in most wild animals, and touch in others. These animals depend more than we do on the sharpest possible awareness of a hostile environment. Apart from the complexity of the cerebral cortex, which does not directly perceive pain, their nervous system are almost identical to ours, and their reactions to pain are remarkably similar, although lacking, so far as we know, the philosophical and moral overtones. The emotional element is all too evident, mainly in the form of fear and anger. So, he even said, their nervous system is almost identical to ours. And this is in when Singer quotes this, he's arguing against the people who feel like that they have reasons to believe that animals don't have the same kind of capacity to suffer and be happy as we do. So, and he concludes that there are no good reasons scientifically or philosophically for denying that animals feel pain. If we do not doubt that other humans feel pain, we should not doubt that other animals do so too. And that's he also talks about that we can see that they feel pain because of external indications, like writhing and screaming and grunting and stuff like that, because that's how we would know how we would do that. Now he says that the reason that we use the principle of equality on humans and human man and women and all races is that they all have the capacity to suffer and be happy, and they all have sentience. Now what has been argued is that animals have that too. So that's what he argues in this chapter is that the whole principle of equality that man has and women have should be moved over and logically inferred to animals also because of their capacity to suffer and enjoy themselves and their sentience, and that he says that they should have similar right to life and to not suffer, and to have a good life just as we do. Whatever criteria we choose, however, we will have to admit that if they do not follow precisely the boundary of our own species, we may legitimately hold that there are some features of certain beings that make their lives more valuable than those of other beings. But there will surely be some non-human animals whose lives, by any standard, are more valuable than the lives of some humans. And then he talks about some things, which, how often he talks about, sometimes if it's possible for a animal life to be more valuable than human life, and he argues that there are times when a animal life will be more valuable than a human's life. Now I could totally go into that, but what this book really goes into is the fact that animals need to have the similar right to life as we do, and that they have the capacity to suffer, and that they have sentience, and because of that, we should be doing things to help prevent that suffering, and we should be doing things to decrease the pain and suffering that they have, because speciesism is very prominent in most humans. And because of that, the dominant worldview, as some environmental ethicists would say, it's very, very prevalent. It's being used as the common idea to do actions and to do things with animals, and that's how that's the idea that is being that's the idea that enforces certain actions, and that needs to be changed. So that's a big point of this book that I've understood so far is the lots of people who have read this book have become vegetarians because it's been so influencing, and it's been so thought-provoking that the whole idea of animal life is often thought to be more valuable, and that the fact that we as humans are inflicting more suffering than we thought is a terrible thing to bear. So that's what I want to get to. I want to move to, throughout reading this book and discussing this book here, its main points. I want to end up discussing what are the reasons to become a vegetarian, and what reasons aren't there. So yeah, the next chapter is called Tools for Research, which is a discussion about speciesism, if I can recall correctly. But I'm gonna read it again, and then I'm gonna come back and discuss it. So, thank you.